When the vet looked at the test results, his hands started shaking. "Mrs. Clark," he whispered, barely able to speak. "What you've been raising in your home, it's not what you think." Eleanor felt her world stop. The tiny creature she had rescued and loved for months was hiding a secret that would change everything. This is her story. Before you watch, remember to like and subscribe so you don't miss another touching story like this one, and write in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there. 6 months earlier, Eleanor lived alone in a quiet house at the edge of town. After her husband passed away, she found herself alone, and her life turned quiet and repetitive. Her only happiness came from her garden flowers, which she looked after with great love. Each morning, Eleanor rose with the early sun, prepared tea, and relaxed on her porch. She would sway in her worn chair, observing the world around her, and thinking about wonderful times with her husband. Although people nearby asked her to join them, she more and more preferred being by herself. Being alone became her regular state. On a cold fall night, Eleanor noticed an odd noise coming from her yard. Wrapping a cozy shawl around herself, she walked out to the porch and paid attention. The noise happened again, a sad little cry like a baby cat's sound. The wind grew stronger and raindrops started hitting the roof hard. Eleanor paused, thinking whether she should venture out in this bad weather, but the crying became more urgent. Grabbing a light, she went into the dark. Moving carefully on the damp grass, she walked around the house. Her beam of light found something moving close to an ancient oak, a small furry bundle shaking from being cold and scared. Eleanor's feelings softened. She carefully lifted the small animal and pressed it against her body. It was a small kitten with gentle grayish-brown hair and large worried eyes. A loud boom of thunder sounded. The kitten shook and grabbed onto Eleanor's clothing. She rushed back to the house, noticing the small heartbeat against hers. She cleaned the kitten using warm water, patted it dry with a gentle towel, and gave it warm milk. The kitten consumed it quickly, then made itself comfortable on her legs and drifted off to sleep. Eleanor remained conscious through the night, hearing the kitten's breathing, concerned it could become ill after the exposure to cold. When morning came, it seemed well and active. The kitten became livelier, examining its new surroundings with interest. Eleanor called him Oscar and brought him to the neighborhood veterinarian. Dr. Thompson said Oscar was in good health, but required extra attention because of how young he was. With time passing, Eleanor's existence found fresh purpose. She loved observing Oscar develop. The kitten showed he was unusually intelligent and energetic. Before long, Eleanor saw that Oscar was unlike regular kittens. He possessed extremely circular golden eyes, puffy face, and stubby legs. She thought these were simply features of his breed. Even with his stubby legs, Oscar expertly scaled drapes. He remained for long periods on the window ledge observing the garden animals. Time went by, and Oscar developed more quickly than normal cats of his age. His coat grew denser, particularly on his face and tail. Eleanor loved him and provided him with numerous snacks. After she purchased him a toy rodent, Oscar showed amazing enthusiasm, lowering his body like a predator and rushing at his target with incredible swiftness. Whenever Eleanor worked in the garden, Oscar observed her with attention. During the evenings, he nestled on her legs while she read or watched television. Eleanor observed that having him around made her feel better. She worried less about being alone, became more active, and smiled more frequently. Even the pain in her joints appeared to improve. On a bright afternoon, as Eleanor tended her garden like always, Oscar moved with her through the plants. While they walked down the trail, the kitten suddenly stopped moving completely. Eleanor also stopped and gazed forward. There, moving swiftly across the grass, was a wild mouse. The kitten leaped fast, grabbing the animal in a single bound. This ability to hunt impressed Eleanor, who had never witnessed such a young feline capture something so effectively. She purchased a unique blue lid to display Oscar to her friends. However, the kitten would not accept wearing it, going under the furniture each time she brought it near. Eleanor saw that Oscar behaved oddly near sudden sounds, lowering his ears and seeking cover when the cleaning machine or telephone made noise. When winter arrived, his coat became even more fluffy and changed to a lovely silvery shade that gleamed in the brightness, causing him to appear larger. One early morning, Eleanor discovered Oscar had gotten outside and was joyfully playing in the white snow, strange for typical cats who dislike freezing conditions. He tumbled in the snow and tried to catch the falling flakes, refusing to return indoors until tempted with food rewards. Eleanor started observing additional odd behaviors. Oscar rejected catnip but liked to chew on sticks and plants from the garden. While Eleanor was discovering these unusual patterns, something else happened that showed more about her strange companion. One afternoon, during her cleaning of the shelves, Eleanor unintentionally knocked over a container. The sharp noise frightened Oscar, and he quickly went under the sofa. His form moved incredibly fast, a streak of silvery hair rushing through the space. However, rather than the typical cat sound, the kitten created an odd noise that sounded like the threatening sound of an untamed hunter. The low, vibrating sound spread through the silent room, making Eleanor feel cold with fear. This confused Eleanor further. She bent down, attempting to locate Oscar beneath the furniture, questioning how such a tiny creature could make such a dangerous noise. One afternoon, Eleanor's longtime friend Barbara arrived for a visit. Right when she came through the entrance, Oscar stared at her with strong, continuous eyes from where he sat on the window ledge. Upon seeing Oscar, she called out with surprise, "Oh my, Eleanor, what sort of creature is that? He appears nothing like a normal cat." Her tone was filled with shock, her hand gesturing toward the strange animal. These statements caused Eleanor to consider seriously. They repeated in her thoughts well after Barbara had gone, making her doubt all she believed she understood. She started to observe her companion more carefully. She monitored him thoroughly in the daytime and occasionally through the night, recording each action and pattern. Truly, there existed something strange, even untamed, in how he looked. The circular head, tiny ears, and thick tail were not typical of a house cat. His eyes appeared overly intelligent, overly watchful, as though concealing mysteries from another realm. Following multiple days of close watching and increasing worry, Eleanor chose to bring Oscar to the animal doctor. Her hands shook as she put the unusual cat in the travel box, thinking about what information she would discover. Dr. Thompson, the community's animal specialist, studied the cat for an extended period. His forehead wrinkled more as each minute went by while he inspected Oscar's teeth, eyes, and strange fur. His face became increasingly confused, sometimes moving his head in disbelief as he wrote things down. "You should know, Mrs. Clark," he said at last, after what felt like many hours of nervous waiting. "I cannot be certain, but this furry little one could be something other than a regular cat. His tooth arrangement is strange, and his fur is unlike any house cat type I have seen in 3 decades of work. We must conduct additional testing." He talked carefully, selecting his language thoughtfully as he touched Oscar's dense fur, with both expert interest and real amazement. During the following days, Eleanor waited with nervous feelings. Each time the telephone rang, she would startle, wishing for information, yet worrying about what it would tell. She could not stop considering the animal doctor's statements, thinking about them repeatedly as she observed Oscar's each action with fresh understanding. What if Oscar truly was not a regular cat? The thought created both fear and excitement in her. What would be the right action then? Must she surrender the companion she had become so fond of? She began taking pictures of Oscar's unusual actions, recording everything as proof of his special nature. At last, the testing information came. The waiting period had been nearly impossible, with Eleanor constantly looking at her telephone for communications she missed. Dr. Thompson asked Eleanor to visit the office for a serious discussion, his tone grave on the telephone. With her heartbeat thumping in her chest like a percussion instrument, she entered the room, carrying Oscar safely in her grasp. The cat appeared strangely peaceful, as though he somehow knew how important this time was. "Mrs. Clark," the animal doctor started, moving closer over his work surface with strong focus in his look. "The findings are remarkable. Your Oscar is not a house cat. He belongs to the Pallas's cat species, an uncommon wild cat from the grasslands of Central Asia." His hand touched a reference book showing a picture that appeared very similar to her companion. Eleanor experienced lightheadedness from the information, holding the side of her seat to keep stable. Dr. Thompson described that Pallas's cats are a threatened species included in the Red Book. They generally stay away from people entirely and are recognized for their independent, hidden ways. They adjust badly to being kept and require particular attention, including certain foods and surroundings to stay healthy. "You have accomplished a wonderful thing caring for this magnificent animal," the doctor stated with true respect in his tone, observing how well Oscar looked considering the strange situation. "However, now we must determine the proper next step." He rested a caring hand on Eleanor's arm, noticing the concern and puzzlement showing on her face. After Eleanor came back to her house that night, she felt deeply troubled. The reality had transformed all things, though also nothing. Oscar remained the identical being she had learned to care for, except now she understood the burden of recognizing his true nature. Her thoughts moved rapidly with opposite ideas continuously, taking away her rest and desire for food. She had formed such a strong connection to Oscar that the idea of separating from him felt too painful to bear. Every occasion she gazed at his distinctive appearance and observed him moving through the house. Her emotions hurt increasingly, yet simultaneously she realized that she was unable to give the right attention he required. Her living space was not suitable for an untamed creature, and she did not possess the understanding to satisfy his particular food and surroundings needs. Furthermore, possessing a wild creature in the home was against the law. The regulations were created to safeguard these uncommon animals, and Eleanor refused to endanger Oscar's condition or her own legal position by disregarding this truth. Following considerable consideration and speaking with professionals, including extended telephone discussions and meetings with animal experts who grasped her feelings, Eleanor reached a hard choice. Her hands shook as she completed the documents, water from her eyes marking the papers. She consented to move Oscar to a nature recovery facility where he would get the right attention and be made ready for return to nature. The facility possessed trained workers, educated particularly in managing threatened species and supporting them to return to their original environments. The day they separated was the most difficult day in Eleanor's existence. She was unable to stop the water flowing from her eyes as she bid farewell to her furry companion. The tears ran down her face as she touched his coat a final time, remembering each design and feel. Oscar, understanding the significance of the occasion, softly made his happy sound and pressed against her hands. His yellow eyes appeared to contain a particular awareness, nearly as though he understood this was a required parting. The facility's workers promised Eleanor they would look after Oscar well and keep her informed of his development. Multiple months went by as she became accustomed to existence without her strange friend. Eleanor got thorough updates regarding how Oscar was adjusting to his fresh surroundings. He had developed clearly, his previous kitten body now strong and muscular, and started to display the genuine actions of an untamed creature. His predator abilities improved greatly, and he stopped caring about the playthings or comforts of house living. Experts felt certain that he would shortly be prepared for freedom in nature. Eleanor received an invitation to attend his release. She reached the protected area where Oscar would be freed, a huge safeguarded space that resembled the grasslands of Central Asia. The weather was ideal, bright skies and a soft wind moving through the high grasses. After the container was unsealed, Oscar waited initially, adjusting his eyes in the strong sunlight. He cautiously smelled the new odors surrounding him, his sensitive hairs moving with every fresh finding. Then, as though finding his bravery, he moved several steps forward. His body tightened under his dense coat, prepared to discover this fresh liberty. Eleanor worked hard to stop her tears as she saw this crucial moment. Without warning, a form appeared in the far distance. It was an untamed Pallas's cat, its special appearance clear even from distant. Oscar became tense, all awareness focused on this meeting, and then, to all people's amazement, he boldly moved toward his similar cat with intention and familiarity. In that ideal instant, Eleanor at last grasped that genuine care occasionally requires releasing. In brief time, the two creatures vanished into the high grass, two forms combining with the environment that was their real home. Eleanor understood she had reached the correct choice. She departed the protected area with less heavy emotions, understanding that in a location within those grasslands, Oscar was at last where he genuinely should be. Sometimes the right thing to do doesn't feel right at all. Did you enjoy this story? If you had raised Oscar with all your love and then discovered he was a wild animal, would you let him go free? Yes or no? Let us know in the comments below. If you liked the story, subscribe to this channel and leave a like. Thanks so much for listening. See you in the next video. Have a great day.